Welcome to the What's Up Verdict podcast, where we fashion ourselves television judge and jury. My name is JJ and I'm here with my co-host, Alec Burgess.
Let's get it.
We appreciate you tuning in. Go ahead and hit that follow, subscribe, like, bell notification buttons, no matter where you're watching. Hit that button that lets you keep up with all of our episodes, going live, doing not live stuff. We have a lot of content out, so hit those buttons. Tell a friend about us. Help us grow the podcast. Tell your local Star Wars nerd about us. Or local Star Wars hater. We'll take them too. I feel like both sides are going to be represented in this particular conversation.
Parts.
But yeah, we're here to talk about Ahsoka, episode 5. Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about this one, and yet not, because I feel like Alex can have not nice things to say about it.
I do have issues, but I will go out and say this has been the best episode so far.
Okay.
It had great moments in it where I was like, damn, this is cool.
Yeah.
And so I'll give it props there. It did a great job in that sense.
Okay. Then we can still be friends.
I had some glaring problems with like how they got there. And then the overall kind of what was learned from this experience type of thing.
Okay, fair.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so.
So
I'm curious. So let's get the issues out of the way, because I want to end on a positive note, because I really, really enjoyed this episode. But I have some issues too, but I want to start with yours. I'm sure they overlap.
So the world between worlds.
Yes.
Anakin Skywalker. An excuse to put a lightsaber in Hayden Christensen's hands again.
Sure.
And give him a moment. I hated it because there was no payoff. Right. And this is to set up this flashback sequence, I think. It's to set up, kind of this moment, which could have been really cool. But what's the lesson that's taught to Ahsoka? Because she goes into the world between worlds to learn a lesson. What's the lesson? Is it this to live or die? She's learned that already.
Yeah. From
episode 6 or Order 66. She's learned this. Is it to like show restraint? She's learned that too. She's, so it's got this cool thing, but there's no payoff. What I would have liked to see is, one, Anakin apologize, which we didn't get. We got almost this arrogant kind of frozen in time Anakin as being a Jedi general and being a warrior. And, I did this because I had to. I would have liked to see an apology of some sort, which is, I trained you to be a warrior because that's what was needed. And, it's my fault for neglecting this other part of the training. Secondly, I would have liked to see Anakin then give Ahsoka almost a spiritual journey to go learn this other side of what it means to be a Jedi. And I had two options that I thought of. One, go to Luke, right? Have a little bit of instead of, the ending that we got, Ahsoka says, hey, I got to go see an old friend, right? Got to go make keep a promise to an old friend. Little episode 5 moment or episode 6. But at the same time, also maybe, with what you can do in this universe, maybe, I don't know, there's some sort of magical force field on this planet we know nothing about that Ahsoka can journey to and be able to talk to the, ghost of Plo Koon, who was the Jedi who discovered her. And then you can get that added spiritual thing, which I would make simply, you're fine, right? There's nothing left for you to learn. Let go of your past. Let go of this regret. Let go of the guilt that you feel for, carrying this weight of it's your fault that Anakin went to the dark side. It's not. And let it go. Because I feel like that's missing. And instead, we got this really cool flashback sequence, but I didn't see a payout for it, other than stuff that Ahsoka's already learned in both animated series. And I was like, meh. So I was like, okay, they wanted to put Hayden Christensen back on screen and give him a lightsaber.
Sure.
I got out of it.
Yeah, and I don't think you're wrong. Like, I think there was definitely an excuse to bring Hayden Christensen back and have him be I will say, okay, my issue mirrors yours only in that, like, the location of this whole thing, which I think confuses things. Because I've watched this episode now 4 times. So yeah, that's me though. Like, I love it and I want it. But here's why. Because the first time I watched it, I was actually really upset and I was pissed because I didn't get it. And here's why. The World Between Worlds is a place that exists for those of us that are the heavy duty Star Wars fans that have watched Rebels. And we realize this place exists. It's not in your head. It's not an imaginary joint. This place is real at the center of the Force, wherever that is. It was located physically in and around a Jedi, an original, or not obviously the first, but an original Jedi temple. It has connections to the Mortis family. So there's a lot of things that are real. My thing with this whole thing, and it took me 3 times getting through this to realize it, I don't think any of this is actually outside of Ahsoka's head. So I think she went there. Yeah. So, and having watched that, there's a couple of reasons that I'll talk about why I feel that way. But having watched it, I feel like everything that happens in this happens it's all her mind. This is her way of processing the fact she just got her ass beat and got hit with an existential crisis beyond the one she's been living with for years by Baylan Skoll being able to look into her mind, heart, emotions, whatever, the way he seems to be able to do, and tell her, look, you've lived a life of nothing but violence and destruction and war, just like Anakin, who she was already afraid of becoming like, and had, like you said, the guilt of creating to a certain degree, or at least not being there to help stop it, right? And then on top of that, having too much faith in him, as we saw in the last episode of Rebels, or not Rebels, but in season 7 of Clone Wars, where she tells Maul straight up, nah, you're wrong, it's not going to happen, and doesn't take the chance to go and try to stop it, right? So there's all these things that she's had going on. I think her falling into the ocean or whatever the hell, because that's my second problem, which I'll get to, is nitpicky, but I don't think we were in the World Between Worlds. I think that was her place to go because she has a connection to the daughter, and part of her life force was given to her the first time she died from the daughter, right? So I think that connection to the World Between Worlds is because she was on the verge of death, as Anakin tells her at the beginning. Oh, that's good. You remember stuff. That means you still have a chance of living, right? And I think this whole thing played out in her head. And part of the reason I think that is, or the hints that give it to me, is the transitions between Anakin. One, Anakin doesn't look like a Force ghost.
No.
Which to me means that Anakin's not actually there. The only workaround that I can come up with of him actually being there and not being a Force ghost is if he's taken some sort of role as the Mortis family being the chosen one, right? And it was identified by the Mortis family as the chosen one. He's taken some role as maintainer of balance, right? Which is why we possibly why we see him switch from light side to dark side Anakin within this whole thing. But that's only one. That's my outside theory. My actual theory is this was never an actual experience that she was having. This was her going back through lessons that Anakin had taught her that should have helped her move into this place that the internet has now coined white, or Ahsoka the White, right? So that whole the whole transition from living in fear and walking a fine line because she didn't want to become Anakin, so she never let herself really go, right? And also not being a good teacher or mentor because she didn't want to create the next Anakin, or she knew she was afraid of walking away. Maybe she wasn't good enough. All of these issues that she's been dealing with, she now is processing through this whatever spiritual journey. And the World Between Worlds, just like having Hayden Christensen with a lightsaber in his hand and then a flashback so that we can see live action Clone Wars and live action Siege of Mandalore was all fan service, right? In fact, I wish we hadn't gone to the World Between Worlds because it confuses things, in my opinion, and for no other reason than to put it in the show. Now, I do think if they had had a one line or something, why am I here? Or have, I can't think of the owl's name, but have the daughter in the owl form be there, then I'm going, okay, this is real. Or this is why we're here in her vision, her dream, her existential crisis, versus we just automatically assume that she went to the World Between Worlds and all of this is really happening. Because that's part of the way that the World Between Worlds works, is you can go to any place. It's not time travel, but you can see everything all at once. And that would make sense as to how this whole thing played out. But again, I think after watching it, the transitions, the fact that the vision is which was a great shot, by the way, when he's walking into the smoky war and all of a sudden the silhouette of Vader's there and it switches back and forth and back and forth. That shit was dope. There was some of the greatest visuals I've ever seen in Star Wars history, period, in this single episode. But I think I didn't enjoy this the first time because I was so fucking confused. I couldn't enjoy what was going on because I was going, why are we here? How is this working this way? It's never worked this way ever in anything that we've seen. Come on, Filoni, you're better than this. But I think he did that back to the point I made last week, where he's balancing, how do I still service the psychotic fans and yet still create something that's very artistic and good. And so once I got past that and I went, this isn't the World Between Worlds, this is in her head. The next 2 times I watched it, I was like, this is dope as hell. Because I wasn't bogged down by trying to get past the fact that it made no canonical sense based on things that Filoni himself had created. So I was really frustrated. But anyway,
I can fix his problem. But before I do that, this is me trying to poke a hole in your perfectly thought out theory. Jason being able to hear lightsabers.
Fair.
Is that because he's got such an in-tune ability or a specific ability within the Force that he's able to sense something, but the way it like manifests to him is through this lightsaber sound? Or was it like maybe Dave Filoni's way to explain what was happening? He said, just be like, yeah, she's out in the ocean. Well, how does he know that?
Yeah. Well, and I think it's a little bit of both. I think to me, this is Jason's step into Force visions kind of thing.
Okay.
The only one that bothered me was Hera being able to hear it. Like, that was one of the other things that I was like, I don't think she's Force sensitive. Like, they've never indicated ever in any of it. And I'm not saying that she can't be, because we have low level Force sensitivity that we've seen, and it would make sense that, that. And again, and I've read all the Harrison Dula books. I've read all, like, there's a couple of them. I've read all the Rebels books. I've watched all the shows. So, but there's never been anything that would actually indicate that she is. Now, again, I'm okay if she is. I just would have preferred her not act like she heard it and just trusted the fact that Jason did, and understand that his dad was one of the most underrated, powerful Jedi out there that just lacked training. If he had been fully trained, he'd have been pretty dope. He was dope anyway, but he'd have been even more so. So for Jason to have it, but again, I'm nitpicking at this point, right? But I'm with you. Like, that is one place where I'm like, I don't know, but what got me through that was he's Force sensitive enough to have been able to connect on that level, because obviously the Force was driving this vision that Ahsoka was having on some level, right? To get her through the lessons, things like that. So that was how I got around it. Now, I could be completely wrong. And again, her connection to the Mortis family could easily bring her to the actual World Between Worlds, especially considering I would imagine it's a lot easier to access the World Between Worlds once you're dead, right? Or on the cusp, especially with her connection. And I'd be okay if it was real, but I just I need more explanation for it to fit in my head. I can't just take it on faith that Dave Filoni knows what he's doing all the time without at least giving me something that makes me go, okay. But if once I start, but I can't be too mad that he left it open to interpretation to a degree. Because, I mean, we're adults. We should be able to figure some shit out or make our own decisions around what. And either way, it works, right?
Yeah.
Kind of. But that leads me to my biggest issue with this whole thing. And this is what pokes a hole in my own theory is if she wasn't actually in the world between worlds, how the fuck did she not drown? Because the last time I checked, she doesn't have gills and they don't survive in water. And it seemed like she was under the water
for quite a while.
Yeah. So if this was all in her head and she was in the water the whole time, how the hell did she survive that? Right? Like she should have drowned. Now, she could have easily been laying on one of the rocks or something that she rolled off and that it woke her up because she was starting to drown. I don't know. But that was the one that I could never get through and go, okay, but how the hell did she survive the water? Unless we have another like Leia pulling herself through space moment and she created some force field around herself that kept her from sucking up water. But I just kind of went, you know what? I'm not going to have an answer to that, so I'm going to let that chick go. Because the whole thing is, Filoni's compared her for a long time to a Gandalf figure. So
no shit.
We needed that, but he did that long before this, right? So we needed that death and rebirth so she could have that moment.
I didn't have Lord of the Rings on my Ahsoka bingo card.
No. Well, I never thought that he would make it that fucking obvious, but it came up in like all the fan circles at the end of Rebels when she was in that white, what looks like. So now here's my other theory. We thought, and I mentioned early on in episode 2, I think that we saw a almost shot for shot recreation of the final shot of Rebels. I don't think so. I think we'll see them take off again after they get back from wherever the hell they're at. And because she was in the white garb
right
at the end of Rebels. So I think Filoni was teasing us saying, here's a shot for shot recreation. They're going to look for Ezra, but I think he bait and switched our asses. Like, I think they weren't going to look for Ezra. I think he retconned his own show, the end of his own show. So I think he's made it so, because she was in the gray garb at the end of that shot. I think he may pull a fast one at the end of this series. Once Ezra's back, or if he's not back, they at least know where he's at. Maybe they got to go back to wherever they're headed to go get him again. But I think we'll see that shot again to show that this was all in between the end of not that final episode, but there's a bit that happens in between that and the end.
Right.
It's the only thing that makes sense to me with the white, the change to the white and having her in the white at the end of Rebels, but not the shot for shot recreation. So there's my issues / theories.
Can I fix the show?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So here's what I would do. Hindsight being 2020.
Sure.
I would start over. You have the initial opening where Skrull and Hati come to rescue Morgan, right?
Yeah.
Skrull's a mercenary, so he does stuff for money.
Sure.
Ahsoka Tano's on the ship. He says, oh, fuck, gets the hell out of Dodge. Takes Morgan with him, takes in Hati. Ahsoka gets a tracker on their ship.
Yeah.
Follows him to Corellia and starts going ham on him. She's Ahsoka Tano. She was trained by Anakin Skywalker. She's a badass. Mm-hmm. She's going to town on both Skrull and Hati. They're on their back foot. Have to bring in a rock. Now it's 3-on-1. Ahsoka starts losing. They take the map. They bounce. Ahsoka realizes, oh shit, I need help for the first time in my life. I'm presented with a challenge that I can't beat. Who am I going to go to for help? Anakin's dead. Obi-Wan's dead. Yoda's dead. Don't know Luke Skywalker well enough. I'm going to go pick up the remainder of the Ghost crew. Harrison Dula and Sabine Wren. And we're going to go, Tracker's still on the ship, so we're going to figure out where they're going. We're going to go mess them up. Since Hera is a general, she brings along a squadron of X-Wings with her. Drop out of hyperspace. Morgan's fighters come in, engage the Delphi squadron and Hera to allow Ahsoka Tano and Sabine Wren to land on the planet. Then they stick together as a team, like Hu Yang told them to, and engage our 3 mercenaries, we'll call them mercenaries, in a fight. Now, since Ahsoka's got help, they easily take out Marok, and Skrull says, fuck this again. I can't, we couldn't beat Ahsoka alone. We can't beat Ahsoka and her Padawan. And then he does what every bad guy does in Star Wars, and he pulls a giant rock using the Force, or we'll say a tree. We'll say a tree because they're in a forest. Pulls down a giant tree to try and squish Sabine. Ahsoka pushes Sabine out of the way, gets trapped into the tree. So now their mercenaries are able to go and get back to wherever the map is. Skrull's yelling at Morgan like, we gotta go. Get us the fuck out of here. We are outmatched, blah, 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 or do something to help. I would have Sabine show her Force powers in helping to get this tree off of Ahsoka. But before that, I would have Ahsoka bare her soul about the guilt she feels and the fact that she didn't want to turn into the next Anakin or turn Sabine Wren into the next Anakin, which is why she walked away from training. Feels, cry, cry, cry. Sabine finds the ability to push, right? Very simple Force, push.
Yeah.
Now they're going again. Now it's going to be 2-on-2. We've already seen that Baylan Skrull does not want to fight Ahsoka. Why? Because mercenaries take contracts based on getting paid, not based on getting killed. And so we see a little bit of Night Sister magic from Morgan. And this Night Sister magic gets inside Sabine and Ahsoka. Sabine sees Ezra. Ahsoka sees Anakin. And we have this moment that we get in the world between worlds. It's not the world between worlds. And Ahsoka goes off. They separate, right? So now they're separated. Skrull grabs Sabine because he was a Jedi. He knows how they feel about their Padawans. He knows that if he gets Sabine, Ahsoka's not going to mess with him. So he's able to get Sabine. Ahsoka snaps out of it, wants to come back and save Sabine, but too late. Hop in the shuttle, jump into hyperspace, send Delphi Squadron all off the rails. I would have, in this kind of Night Sister magic thing, Ahsoka get this spiritual quest. I don't know, send Qui-Gon to her for crying out loud. He's the one who started this whole goddamn mess in the first place.
Yeah, no kidding.
So I would have somebody come help guide Ahsoka on the spiritual journey, because I don't buy this spiritual journey crap from what we just saw for her transformation from the wandering gray wizard into Mithrandir. I don't see it.
Yeah.
But if you have some other payoff, some other spiritual journey that involves, I don't know, her going to some force sensitive spot in this planet, or I don't know, just a visit from a force ghost, let's bring those back. God damn. Then you get a little bit more of this payout. And then I don't have to watch this whole thing going, oh wow, Ahsoka got really good at fighting as soon as Anakin showed up. Like, that was the Ahsoka Tano I wanted in the duel between Baylan and her. But I didn't get it. And so that's how I would do it. To where you keep a badass character. Badass.
Yeah.
And you keep this idea of, hey, guess what? Maybe we should fucking stick together. Oh, I do like the payoff from Hu Yang. Where he was like, I told them to stay together and they never listen. That was cool.
You made me sad.
But that's what I would do to make this show feel like we get in the Ahsoka Tano that we got in Clone Wars and Rebels. Because if we look at her resume, she's gone toe-to-toe with Darth Maul. She's gone toe-to-toe with Vader. She's proved time and time again that she's this legitimate badass.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, I almost lost it when the first thing that Anakin says to her, besides "Hey Snips," is "You got old." I was like, oh, did they bring George Lucas back to write some dialogue? Like,
oh god,
are you kidding me? You look exactly the same. You got old. Oh, okay. No shit, Sherlock.
That's funny.
But that would be my way that I would fix it, and that kind of ends my gripes.
It's fair
for this episode. So we can get into the good stuff now, because I'm excited for the stuff that was good in this episode was really good.
Oh, for sure. And I think, to your point, like, just to kind of close your thought off there, like, I think that sounds great. I love the idea there. I also think that they could have done it even simpler and just had her battling from the beginning of this, of not wanting, or introducing it into, and maybe they didn't want to because they wanted her to look like her badass self in The Mandalorian, but like have her being like, I don't want to fight anymore. Because they mention that shit in the vision when she's in the Clone Wars revisit, and I'm like, I get that. Like, if I were her, I would, because it's all she's ever done is fight, period. End of story. Even in the books and like some of the comics, when she tried to stop, she got pulled back into it. So it's like, I would have loved to have had that been the theme of old Ahsoka from the beginning, is I don't fight anymore. Like, I do everything I can to avoid it. But the first time we see her in live action, she's chopping up dudes in the forest on the Mandalorian like they're butter, disappearing and reappearing, which was cool. I'm just saying, like, even if they had started this and just said, I don't want to fight anymore. I'm tired of fighting. And that becomes the theme until she realizes I'm fighting for a purpose. It's not because I'm just fighting. So when I'm fighting for a reason, like, because they show that she used to fight for the clones a lot, like and that care that she had for the clones, which most of the Jedi didn't have, they were just clones and she cared. So anyway, I don't know. I'm with you. I think there's definitely ways to explain what's been going on with her better. I hope moving forward, we can just move on from the fact that she was old Ahsoka and we just have this new, like you say, Mithrandi or Ahsoka, the white version that's like even better. And I don't even care if she's some Billy badass with a lightsaber. I just want her to be like smarter. You know
Competent,
what I mean?
yes.
Yeah, like, because I feel like that's the one thing that they took away from her. She was always so clever in the shows. And in this, like, she seemed just kind of like fucking dumb. And I get it. Like, if you've given up on it, like if you're, like if you're tired and you won't, like, it's something, you lose sight of that motivation. But I've been like, come on, man, this is, but it was nice to see kind of funny Ahsoka when she woke up again, like making jokes with Hu Yang, being all sweet with Jason. Like that I was like, hey, look, that's so I've said it this whole show. I'm like, she seems so serious, like, God, let it, but they didn't do a good job explaining. And again, unless you were in it, like I understood from jump, she's tired, right? Like but you can't just assume that everybody's seen and read and heard as much as someone like me or more, you know what I mean? Anyway, yeah, let's talk about the good shit. Dude, Hayden Christensen is, I'm glad they've been able to bring him back because he's better as Anakin now than he ever was when he was a kid and they first hired him to be Anakin.
Yes.
And he got good at Anakin episode 3. Episode 2, he was terrible, but that was partially the dialogue. Episode 3 was good. In Obi-Wan and in this, he's been outrageously good. Like, he stole the fucking episode, which was amazing. And seeing him in the Clone War armor, like, that was dope.
It's really cool that they're doing this.
Yeah.
But it's also like, maybe find a way to make your own Anakin show.
Yeah. Sure.
Because that would be cool now that he can play the character better.
Yeah.
Like, there's tons of stories that you could do with this.
Yeah.
Little spin-offs, a little bit here, a little bit there that didn't come about in the, major episodes of the Skywalker saga or even in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Because it's like he's so good at this, and maybe this is why he's so good, but it's in such small dosages.
Sure.
That when he comes in, he takes over.
Yeah.
And then you're almost relegating your title character to comedic, sidekick.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, it's great for him.
Sure.
It looks amazing.
Oh yeah.
But then they almost like throw it away, and now there's this void or vacuum, and you're like, oh well, okay.
Yeah. That's
Thanks,
fair.
I guess.
Yeah. You know who else killed it though? Is the girl that plays young Ahsoka. So that's the same actress that plays, I just forgot her name, Gamora, young Gamora. So Disney's revisiting their actresses, but she killed it. Like,
she did a really good job.
Damn, she kind of sounds like her. She's got some of the mannerisms. Like when she folded her arms all fucking huffy, I was like, that's so Ahsoka. Like, it was so good. Yeah, I loved that.
I was glad we got to see Captain Rex.
Yeah, it was good to see live action Rex.
Stunt double with Tamira Morrison's voice. I was like, yes.
Pretty much. So funny.
But that was cool because that's something that I feel like's been missing from the live action anything is having Captain Rex.
Yeah.
So seeing him in this flashback, I was like, oh, that's cool. And I kind of like that they didn't really make him front and center.
Yeah.
Right. He's in the background. You have to almost be paying attention. Oh, there he is.
Yep.
Because the diehard Star Wars nerds we're looking as soon as you went back in time. Like, where's Rex? Where's Rex?
Oh yeah. Where's Rex? Where's everybody? Because I was also looking and I loved that they showed in the Siege of Mandalore the Ahsoka clones with you could see it in the background. There was like one or two of them that had Ahsoka's face painted onto their helmets. Like, I thought that was a cool callback in live action. So it was really neat to see. And one of the most impressive pieces is when that fight when she's in the siege on Mandalore, like, that was almost a shot-for-shot recreation of an animated fight. You just don't see the beginning because that would have been hard to do. But like, she jumps out of a transport ship, tells Rex, "I'll see you down there." Jumps out of it, floats down, kills a bunch of freaking Mandalorians on the way down, using their jetpacks to fly her ass around. Lands, and then as soon as she lands, we start to see a live-action version of the animated version of that fight. So it's almost a shot-for-shot recreation of that one of those final episodes in season 7. I was like, as soon as she started, I was like, I've seen this before. Like, this is dope. So all of those callbacks and recreations were really cool. Like, that was cool. Like, I was geeking out pretty hard. Even when I was mad the first time I watched it, I was geeking out pretty hard.
Yeah, it's still cool. Because I was mad. I've only watched it once. But when that came on, I was like, okay, that's cool. Yeah, that was fair dinkum. Nice job, Dave Filoni.
Yeah. The guy gets it when it comes to stuff like that. Well, and like I said, the shot when Anakin's walking away after the first flashback in the Clone Wars on the Ryloth, the battle for Ryloth, like, you see when he's walking away and he gets into the smoke and it switches to Vader's thing and then back to him and then back to Vader and then back to him. I was like, that's such a cool visual of her understanding of Anakin and who he eventually became. And like, that was another piece that I was like, she can't separate now that she knows what he became. She hasn't been able to separate that, which is why I thought the line when they got back into right before they went back into the world between worlds, when he's like, is that what this is about? Like, cause she says, look, dude, you were different. You weren't just violence and fighting, but you became the most dangerous of us and you were super powerful. And he's like, you still bitching about the fact that I became Vader? Like that. I love the smugness of that whole thing, but it was to me, like, that was the emotional piece. Once I got past the first watch through and I was okay with, regardless of how they got where they were at, that emotional journey that you were talking about that she had of almost the majority of her issues stem from Anakin and Anakin becoming Vader, whether it's because she abandoned him and she felt like she could have maybe stopped it, or she eventually had to fight him and he was no longer Anakin, right? No matter what she would do. Like, that whole letting go of the fact that she's pissed at him. Like, I love that because he's like, really? Is that what this is about? All right, fine. I'll let you fight. And then it was like, okay, fine. I'll let you fight Vader again.
Yeah.
Right. And that was, you'll have this moment to show that you're even better than you were years ago when we fought on Malachor. Right. And so it's just like, I loved that moment. And then I also really enjoyed the visual of her leaning in, like she was about to strike him, and her eyes caught the glare of the red lightsaber and turned just red enough that you were like, ooh. Get him, because that's often a wonder too. Like, we've seen Dark Ahsoka and she was nasty to deal with when they were on Malachor. Like, that was not a fun thing for her to have to deal with. So yeah, it's very interesting. But I think this is her third time around dying, like, or coming damn near close to dying. So
just press X to respawn.
Yeah, no shit. No shit. I mean, I'm sure at some point she's gonna have to give the long sacrifice, or she might Yoda herself at the end of the whole Heir to the Empire and disappear in the background. And I don't know. She's such a good character, though.
Sail west to the Undying Lands.
There you go. Guess that would fit with her Gandalf-like theme, right? Yeah, I did not expect Filoni to lean that hard into that fact, because I mean, like I said, years ago, he in an interview he talked about, yeah, she's very much like a guide like Gandalf was, and has grown up past like all of these weird things. So it was like very interesting. And now but he's like, oh yeah,
here's a sledgehammer.
We're just gonna blatantly show that she is very Gandalf like. So, and I'm okay with it, but it certainly made me question the shot for shot scene early on. But yeah, I really appreciated like her development, her self-development through this episode of finally letting go of Anakin being Vader. And I'm hoping that at some point, now that she's let go of that anger, fear, whatever it was, a combination of all of it, that we might see a Force ghost of Anakin, because I think he's one of the only ones that he could show himself to without creating animosity there, right? Besides Luke, I don't know who else Anakin could show up.
Who else is left?
That's fucking fair, I guess. But I mean, you know what I mean? Like the stories of him are so pervasive and strong, and I'm sure at this point, like they know, like, and there was like, there's some canon in some of the novelizations of the movies, like Return of the Jedi, where the reason that Luke was the only one around when Vader's armor was burnt was because he knew that everybody else would celebrate the fact that he was dead. And so he didn't want to include that like that. He wanted that to be a somber moment because Anakin had redeemed himself at the end there. And so he didn't want those things, that crossover, to be there. So that was like, when you think about that, you're like, man, he couldn't just show up and, you know, to like, even to Leia, I mean, he fucking tortured her at one point, you know what I mean? So it's like, how do you show up to her as her dad and have there not be some level of distaste and animosity there? So it's interesting. It's interesting because he's always going to have that stigma, right? But I think with Ahsoka, he could show up, especially now, right? Like she's crossed that threshold. I think he could show up to her and say, and maybe get that apology that we've been looking for, right? Look, I'm sorry.
Give me something. Yeah.
Anyway, I enjoyed it. It's the best episode so far for sure. And hopefully we've reset, right? We've gotten past the whole how did we get here part, and now we can just get where we're going.
I certainly hope so.
Me too. And I don't want any more Rebels tie-ins, right? Like I'm okay with them. Like I have no problem with the Rebels crew and those that are in. Like, in fact, I wish we'd have gotten the big guy back since we got him in Mandalorian last season. But it's one of those things where I'm like, I'm okay if we don't see anyone outside of Ahsoka and Sabine and then Shin and Hati and Skull, and then maybe Ezra, and of course Thrawn. But
we're gonna get something back with Mon Mothma and the New Republic, and there's gonna be some bullshit going on.
Yeah, I know we will, but I don't want that because they've already shown now why we get to the sequel trilogies, right? Like Dave Filoni's done his job. He's shown, yes, throughout The Mandalorian and this, we're right back to the bullshit, probably in record time.
This New Republic could not tie their own shoes if they didn't have the
Rebels. They're the worst.
And Ahsoka Tano.
I mean, even the old Republic did. I mean, it took generations to get that bad. This one, like, is 5 years later and they're already a shit show. It's like, what the hell? Did you guys forget already what it's like? And they're way too kind to the former Imperials. Come on now.
Yeah. Plus, at this point, it's almost like, wow, the First Order did you guys a favor by knocking me out of the galaxy.
No shit. Wiped out the whole Senate. That's okay. They were incompetent anyway. Like,
I did you a favor. You're welcome.
Might as well. Yeah, seriously. So he's done his job. I don't need to see any more of their incompetence. And the fact that Mon Mothma, who I thought was a badass in the original trilogy, has turned into a terrible leader, like completely and utterly controlled by the Senate. Like, what kind of leader were you? You led a rebellion. Bullshit.
I'm hoping someone has a vote of no confidence and appoints Sheev Palpatine to be the new chancellor.
Exactly. Yeah, I couldn't. And I love like the Leia name drop there from he's like, yeah, Senator Organa.
Can't hold him off forever.
Yeah. She should be able to.
Yeah.
Stupid.
But Disney nerfs all their good characters.
That's fair. All right. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited for hopefully new episodes, great battles, some redemption, some understanding of. I think she obviously will be a much better teacher.
Mojo back.
Yeah, no shit. Hopefully she quits second guessing herself and just takes him. I would love for her to just walk in and just freaking beat, like just hands bailing his ass, like, and be like, yeah, I was just in a bad place before.
Had to work through some stuff.
Yeah. Put me on the right track, though. Yeah. I did like the psychometry, though. It's interesting because Ahsoka now can do the psychometry, which I guess maybe because she's leveled up, right? But they made it pretty clear in like the game where that was made a huge thing. You know, the Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor, like that was a pretty rare ability among Jedi, the whole psychometry thing, the way she did it and the way he does it in the game. So I was like, okay, it must be a level up. She got that new ability once she leveled up.
Yeah, but I mean, why? Use the last 2 brain cells that you guys collectively share, apparently. Okay, Sabine's not here. Her helmet is. Body's not.
Yeah.
Map's broken. Let's see. Last time I saw Sabine, she had the map.
Yeah.
Map's broken. Sabine's not here. No body. They must have taken her with them.
Yeah.
Why? I don't know.
Yeah.
Instead of this psychometry, I haven't played the games, but which told us the exact same stuff anyway.
Yeah.
It didn't tell us that Sabine got taken with them.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, give me the map and I won't, hurt Ezra.
Yeah. Basically. We'll
to
go
a guy
get him.
who, would have no problem being like, thanks for the map. Here's a lightsaber to the gut.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing business with me.
Yeah. Yeah, the psychometry
thing
was weird.
How about you just use your detective skills? I know you've got them.
Yeah,
we see it all the time.
We've seen them. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Like, I thought the psychometry, and again, that was just another thing to say, oh, look, here you go, fans.
Yeah.
Ahsoka's cool, too. She can do psychometry, and it's really, you just, like, touch an item, and it gives you a history of who's.
Which is useful in the games where they can pass lore on.
Correct.
It's a beautiful gameplay mechanic.
In the show, it's just kind of lazy, but
yeah, burn a calorie.
Yeah, well, yeah, seriously, and like it would have made more sense if they're like, oh, they must have taken her prisoner. I gotta go save her, as opposed to, shit, bitch went on her own. Let her stay there. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, I get it, but anyway, I don't want to go back to bitching at it because it really was a great episode. It just had some weird shit going on.
Disagree.
You know what?
It was the best one so far. I'll give you that.
There you go. And I'm going to pretend that means that you thought it was wonderful with a couple of exceptions.
Thought it was terrible except for a couple exceptions.
Yeah, there you go. I hate you. No. Oh, God. All right. Well, we'll be back next week with hopefully a different episode. And apparently they're mixing metaphors too, because we got like a Jonah moment. Like, wait, what? You just gonna fly in there and hang out on its tongue? Okay. What happens if it needs to breathe while you're in light speed? Like,
sucks to be you, bro.
Hopefully it breathes through the blowhole and not through the mouth. Anyway, with that funny moment, Alec, tell everybody where they can find us when they're not watching us live.
Happy to. Yeah, we will be back. JJ will, at least. He might find a new co-host by that point. But thank you for joining us live for Ahsoka Episode 5. Some great nostalgia, but I think JJ and I are never going to meet in the middle on this, which is fine. I still like JJ, and he still tolerates me. So life is good. We are midway through our indie month of September and have new episodes dropping every Monday, so be sure to have your notifications turned on so you never miss an episode when it drops. Special thanks, I guess, to our current patron, Marvel Has Jumped the Shark, for picking our October movies, which is going to be great soundtracks month, and for selecting a special 5th movie that is horror and will make me cry. You're the best. If you want some control over these theme months, Patreon is the place to do it, as that is where the voting happens. With that, I will kick it back to the Titan of Terror, the King of Crash, a JJ.
Love it. Thanks, Alec. Yeah, all those things and many more, and we'll see you next time. And as always, we appreciate you tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Cinemagic out.
Whoa!